Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another episode of PMP's Den of Antiquities. Today we're here to talk about episode 8 of Ahsoka, The Jedi, The Witch, and The Warlord. And I really like how that's kind of a play on the Chronicles of Narnia, which is the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So we start off the episode with the Chimera towering over the Night Sister stronghold, and I really love these shots. They really started doing these a lot more in Rogue One, and I feel like they've been kind of sprinkling them in ever since, but I don't know, I just always find them interesting, and they're always so beautiful and breathtaking. But we come upon Thrawn and Morgan Elsbeth talking about how Morgan doesn't really see Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra to be a threat. And Thrawn is like, no. He's like, the Empire has countlessly disregarded the rebellion, the Jedi, and time again, the Empire is lost. And that's not a mistake I will never make again. So he's just pulling out all the stops to make sure that he gets off this planet and that he gets back to the galaxy that's far, far away. But then we get a really cool scene that I feel like pays homage to a lot of Clone Wars fans and Rebels to some extent. There was a little bit of Night Sister magic in Rebels, but Morgan Elsbeth kind of gets, I feel like, initiated even more into the Night Sister clan. She's given the tattoos with the Night Sister magic, and this is really cool because we've never seen this. We don't really know how the Night Sisters kind of get their tattoos, but it's really cool to see in live action that they kind of like burn them on almost with the magic. And then she gets the black eyes that all the other Night Sisters have, and it's just really cool to see the initiation into kind of the Night Sisterhood. And then they even take it a step further by summoning the sword of Mother Talzin, which, if you guys don't know, Mother Talzin is the Night Sister of Dathomir back in the normal galaxy that we know. And you see her summon this sword in a Clone Wars episode where she fights Mace Windu in the middle of the desert. Super cool episode, and it's really cool to see that sword back in action. It's imbued with the Night Sister magic. It's got like green flames coming off it, and it was just a real treat to see that. And then we transition to Ezra building a lightsaber, and this is such a cool scene. I really love that they added lightsaber construction. I like that they're doing Jedi training, they're doing Jedi lightsaber building. Like, I feel like these things aren't shown enough in Star Wars, and it's just a really cool scene. I love that Huyang mentions Kanan and how he trained him to build a lightsaber, and now he's helping Ezra. And I love that Huyang's like, hey, I have the perfect piece for your hilt, and he grabs basically the emitter that Kanan had in Rebels, and Ezra builds it. He's like, oh, it's perfect. And they kind of go back to giving Ezra his blue lightsaber, just how Kanan had a blue lightsaber, and it was just really fitting. And they talk about the bond between a master and apprentice, and you can kind of see on Sabine's face that she knows she has to go confront Ahsoka after what she did of giving Baylan the map and allowing Thrawn to escape. And the scene with Ahsoka and Sabine kind of talking as master and apprentice, I thought was very thoughtful. Like, I really love that Sabine's kind of taken back by Ahsoka. She's like, oh, you're not mad that I made this decision and potentially caused another war in our galaxy? And Ahsoka kind of understands that that's the only choice that she had to make, and that whether it's right or wrong, a master stands by her apprentice through thick and thin. And I just really appreciated that scene, and I felt like it had a lot of weight. And kind of gave Sabine and Ahsoka a level up in their master and apprenticeship. And then we get Thrawn sent to the 2 TIE fighter pilots, and I just wanted to talk about how cool the TIE fighter pilot helmets look. Like, I already thought that design was pretty cool with the red and the black, but then they added a little bit of gold cracks in there, and man, the design is really interesting, and I love these. I guess they're called night pilots because the troopers are called night troopers, so I guess you would call them night pilots, but the design for them are really sick. And after they end up damaging the ship, Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra have to go on foot with the wolves and basically just charge the Night Sister stronghold. And that scene is super cool. You get to see the orbital bombardment of the Chimera just basically decimating the ground and them having to weave through it. Like, it's a very interesting scene and built a whole bunch of suspense that I really appreciate. And I love Thrawn's face. You don't really see Thrawn get mad very often, but you can just see the look of irritation on his face when they make it through and enter into the stronghold. And I thought that was really well done. And this is why he was talking with Morgan Elsbeth at the beginning and being like, you cannot underestimate Jedi. They find a way, even if it seems impossible, they find a way to persevere. And time again, Thrawn's right. So he ends up sending his night troopers down to defend until they can basically take off. And this scene is so cool. I love that we're getting more lightsabers. I feel like there was, you know, Sabine had her lightsaber, Ahsoka had her lightsabers, and then Ezra had his new built one. Like seeing 3 lightsabers in a room together, like just deflecting and dodging, and also 3 different color lightsabers. So it's not like red and green, or it's not like blue and green. It's 3 definitely unique lightsabers. Like that scene was so cool, of how they're taking out the guards, and you can kind of tell that Sabine's not there yet with a saber, because Ahsoka goes, "Sabine, get your blasters out," and she starts blasting all the troopers. And then the Night Sisters bringing the troopers back to life with their Night Sister magic. You see like the glowing green in their eyes. It's very reminiscent of the Death Trooper novel, where there is basically an Imperial prison transport where a virus breaks out and turns all the troopers and prisoners on board into basically like zombies. So I thought this was a really cool way of doing that. I kind of like the Night Sister magic Death Trooper idea better than just having it be a virus. But it was really cool because you see a lot of the troopers, some of them are just like walking towards Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine. Some are just firing from the hip, and some are just, you know, trying to make it up, and they're struggling to even get up just because they're dead. They're the undead. But Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine make their way up the tower, where they find Morgan Elsbeth waiting for them. And I really love the scene right before that, when Thrawn's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to be left behind for the Empire so we can escape, so I can achieve my grander plan." And he goes, "For the Empire." And when he's walking away, she doesn't say "for the Empire." She says "for Dathomir," and it really shows how much of a bond she has with her past and with her newly found Night Sisters. Ahsoka and her end up getting locked into combat, which is so cool, man. Like, that is probably some of the fastest saber sword combat that I've seen out of the Disney Plus era. And the combat in this show in general has just been on point. It's so fast, it's so intense. It really reminded me of the prequel era combat, and it's just so cool. Morgan Elsbeth was badass, Ahsoka was badass. Like, it was just a really cool scene. And then we cut to Ezra and Sabine, who are trying to make it on Thrawn's ship before it departs. And we get to see 2 Death Troopers, which are already super menacing and already, in my opinion, really cool looking. Like, the Death Trooper design is so sick. And now they have like all the gold inlays and the ribbon from the Night Sisters, and they turn out to be actually like undead Death Troopers, which like really fits the name. But then we get to something that personally for me wasn't my favorite part of the show, which is Sabine being able to use the Force. Now, George Lucas, when he was making The Return of the Jedi, talks about how anybody can use the Force if they're disciplined enough to use it. But even then, there's different talent levels and skill levels, and it can take years and years and years to be disciplined. And I don't know, for me personally, it just didn't feel like Sabine had earned it at that point. You know, at the beginning of the season, she said she kept up her training a little bit, but I feel like her training would have been with a lightsaber and not with trying to connect with the Force and be one with the Force. So I don't know, in this short time span, it didn't really feel like she had earned the power to use the Force. I feel like Ezra could have used the Force and tossed her the lightsaber to stab that Death Trooper in the head, which was a really cool scene. I really liked seeing that. It was really intense. But to me, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was earned. I know that, I don't know if it was retconned or not, but I know they talk about in The Phantom Menace that you have to have a high midi-chlorian account to even have the potential to wield the Force. So it's never really talked about in Rebels or anything like that. Sabine doesn't really have the Force in Rebels or any inclination of it. Kanan doesn't sense it. Ezra doesn't sense it. So to me, it just kind of feels like it's out of left field. Like, again, I'm not opposed to her using the Force. I honestly think a Jedi Mandalorian is a really cool concept, something that has been introduced in Star Wars with Tar Vizsla creating the Darksaber and becoming a Jedi, and now Grogu as well. But I don't know. I just feel like if she would have maybe used it maybe if we would have gotten another season of her trying and failing, and then maybe in the movie she used it, maybe in a similar scene or something like that, it would have felt more earned and more deserved. But I don't know. There's just too many loose ends that don't really add up to her using the Force at this point. But I don't know. It didn't really ruin the season for me or the episode. Like, yeah, was it my favorite? No, but I kind of chalk it up to being the same as her getting stabbed with a lightsaber. Like, I don't like that scene, but it doesn't ruin the entire series for me. But we move on to Ezra basically just decapitating. She tosses the lightsaber to Ezra. It decapitates the trooper. You see the undeadness underneath with all the zombification. Like, that's super cool. And then they have to do the classic, hey, you run and jump using the Force, and then I'll use the Force and push you to the ship. Which they do that a lot in Rebels. Like, I can't, if I had $1 for every time that they did that in Rebels, I'd have like $5, you know. I'd have $3. But I honestly felt like if they would have maybe cut the lightsaber scene of her using the Force with a lightsaber and maybe just shown her using the Force with Ezra, I felt like maybe that might have been, I might have felt differently about Sabine using the Force, because at that point, like, there's no other option. She has to. It's like, it's do or die. She's putting her faith in that she can do it, and Ezra's putting his faith in her. I don't know. I just felt like that would have been a little bit more impactful, but I felt like that scene kind of fell flat because I was already kind of turned off by her using the Force in the prior scene. I'm excited to see how her development in the Force grows as the show continues. I think she's already a pretty strong character, so I hope that it's nothing really crazy beyond that. I hope she kind of has like subpar Force abilities, just because all of her other abilities are so high. Like, I feel like she's going to be overpowered if she can like wield the Force as good as Luke or Ahsoka or Anakin. You know, that's just going to take me out of the whole scene. But when it comes time for Sabine to basically make the same jump that Ezra does, I really love that she stays behind and helps Ahsoka. Like, the lightsaber and blaster combo where she's slicing and shooting is really cool. We haven't really seen that other than in like video games, with like Cal being able to use a lightsaber and blaster, and then also like Kyle Katarn being able to do that in the Jedi Academy games. But I think that really strengthens their bond, and really like, hey, they're in this together. Like, Ahsoka's like, hey, I'm not gonna leave you, I'm gonna stick by your side. And Sabine basically just does a reverse Uno card and says, I'm gonna do the exact same thing for you, which it really warmed my heart to see. And then we get Ahsoka fighting Morgan Elsbeth again. They've made it to the top of the pillar. The Death Troopers are all around, or the Night Troopers, Dead Troopers, however you want to call them, are circling Ahsoka, and she's blocking and defending and also fighting Morgan. And then I didn't realize this at the time, but the move that Ahsoka uses to finish Morgan Elsbeth, she disarms Morgan and not only slices her with the lightsaber, but slices her with her own blade, Mother Talzin's blade. And I was like, dang, that is a sick move. Like, that is so crazy. And I tip my hat to whoever was the fight choreographer for basically this entire show, because this is the most real that saber combat has been, I feel like, in live action since the prequel trilogy. And it was chef's kiss. It was great. And then after Morgan dies, the Night Sisters can feel obviously her presence leave, and they tell Thrawn that she's left, and he commands them to open fire on the stronghold. And I love that the glance that they give him when he tells them to open fire on the stronghold. Like, I feel like this is going to be like the first of many rifts that kind of happen in between the Night Sisters and Thrawn. And then we get Thrawn inevitably escaping. Ahsoka and Sabine have to go back down on the planet and kind of just figure out their next move. And I always find it interesting that the Morai follows Ahsoka anywhere that she goes. And for those who don't know, I think I've said it in previous videos, but the Morai is like the spiritual embodiment of the daughter from the Mortis arcs, which I'll get to that here in a second. but you can see the owl that flies away. That's supposed to be the daughter, and it's always following Ahsoka, because in the Mortis arc, the daughter basically gives her life to save Ahsoka in that episode in the Clone Wars. And then it cuts to Baylan and Shin, which I don't know if I was the only one. I seriously thought when Shin raised that saber that she was gonna go all Anakin Tusken Raider mode and just basically wipe out all of the raiders that live in that area. But I guess that's her new plan, is she's not gonna go with Thrawn, which was what originally Baylan had told her, is just seek your power, go with Thrawn, find your place in the new emerging empire. But I guess she ended up not doing that and just said, I'm going to become the leader of this raider group. And maybe that's enough power for her. So maybe she was taking Baylan's advice when they initially parted, that he said, don't be impatient for power because it's only going to lead to your destruction. So maybe she reevaluated her plan and was like, hey, you know what? Instead of ruling by Thrawn's side, which he may cast me aside, he may use me to further his own ambitions, I'm just going to become the leader of these raider groups. So I'll be interested to see if we honestly see more of her. I think we will. I don't think they're just going to dismiss her and be like, oh, she's just going to become a raider, like the leader of the raiders. I think we'll get to see more of her in the future. But then we get to see Baylan and where he's going, and he's on top of this giant statue that, for those who don't know, that is the father from the Mortis arc. And right next to him is the son, which is also in the Mortis arc. And then the third statue is broken into a whole bunch of pieces, but I imagine that would have been the sister. And it's really cool to see that Dave is trying to bring the Mortis arc into live action and really adapt a lot of the stuff that he introduced in Clone Wars back into the live action shows. I'm so excited to see where Baylan's journey is going to continue. I know that Ray Stevenson has passed. I think it's such a shame because he 100% killed that role. It was amazing, and I don't know exactly what they're going to do, whether it be recasting or do something like they did with Luke in The Mandalorian and in Boba Fett, where they just like digitally kind of like CGI and deep fake his face. But I really hope that the rest of his story is told, because to me, that's one of the most interesting parts, honestly, in Ahsoka, is his journey and what he's trying to achieve, whether that be to find Abeloth, which is a Legends character, which is technically like the mother of the whole Mortis like style family, that basically is just so powerful that she's exiled to like an unknown spot in the galaxy, like the galaxy's far, like way far away, like she's sent there and is trapped there. So I don't know if that's what he's trying to unlock or what sort of power he's trying to gain, but I'm super interested to see his journey be continued. And then it cuts back to Ezra finally landing back in the New Republic cruiser, and I thought that was such a heartwarming thing between Chopper and Ezra. And then a lot of people said that they had problems with like Hera and Ezra and like not hugging, or like Hera being more ecstatic. But you gotta think, man, Ezra's been gone for like 5 to 10 years plus. And I guarantee you Hera at that point was just shocked. Like you can see it on her face. Like she didn't believe that she was seeing Ezra, you know, and I think it was just like she was going through a mix of emotions, and you can totally see that in her face, where she's like surprised, happy, shocked. Like you can see all the emotions, and I really felt the emotion in that scene. And I'm excited to see what Ezra does now that he's back in the galaxy. Is he gonna try to help the Republic? Is he gonna go try to find Luke? Like, what is Ezra gonna do to help stop Thrawn? And then we cut to the final scene with Ahsoka and Sabine, and they're kind of looking off into the night sky and looking off into the stars. And I like that Sabine's like, oh, I thought I saw something, but maybe it's just like smoke in the clouds or smoke in the stars or whatever it is. And Ahsoka's sitting there looking, and it was a very Return of the Jedi moment, I felt, with Luke seeing Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. And believe it or not, they did it again. We get Anakin 3 times in this show, and I love the amount of love that Hayden Christensen is getting for reprising his role. It's well-deserved, and I can't get enough of it. I'm so glad that Dave continues to put him in there, and I think he's going to continue to be in it for years and years to come, and I'm so excited about that. But we get Force Ghost Anakin kind of looking over and seeing Ahsoka and Sabine, just like he was looking over Luke, Han, Leia, and all the rebellion at the end of Return of the Jedi. So that's my review for episode 8. I really enjoyed the season as a whole. I'll definitely be doing another video talking about the season as a whole instead of each episode individually, and I think we might do another roundtable talking about the series as a whole, but I'll have more information on that soon. We are doing a roundtable though on Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, so come around and hang out with us, talk some Star Wars. I want to know your thoughts on the episode. You can also leave your thoughts and comments down below. I always love hearing that, and I always try to comment and talk to you guys. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and may the Force be with you.